I never expected to see her again. Not there, not like that. 2 years had passed since the night she walked out of my life without a word, leaving me with nothing but silence and papers signed by lawyers. 2 years of unanswered questions, of wondering how the woman I shared half my life with could vanish so completely. But on that warm August afternoon, as I walked across the sand toward the water, there she was. Lorraine. She was standing near the shoreline in a wide-brimmed hat, holding hands with a man I didn't recognize. At first, she looked carefree, laughing, shoulders loose, like the world had finally given her peace. But then her eyes shifted. She saw me, and in that instant, her whole expression collapsed. The color drained from her face. Her smile fell away. She froze as though she'd seen a ghost. And maybe she had. Because the man she betrayed, the one she thought she'd left behind in pieces, was now standing 20 feet away, alive, steady, stronger than ever. I didn't move at first. I let her look at me. I wanted her to see the years etched into my face, the weight I carried, the nights I spent rebuilding from ashes. Her new man followed her gaze, confused, his hand tightening around hers. He asked her something, but she didn't answer. She couldn't. She just stared at me like her lies had finally washed up on the shore, exposed in the daylight. What she didn't know was that I hadn't come here by chance. 2 years earlier, the divorce settlement had left me gutted. She took half of what I'd built, including the house on the lake, the one I thought would be our forever home. I let it go because I was too numb to fight, too broken to care. But I hadn't forgotten. Men like me, we don't forget. We heal quietly, we rebuild carefully, and we wait. And when the time comes, we make sure the truth has its day. That day had come. I took a step closer, and she flinched, just slightly. The man beside her frowned, as if trying to piece together who I was. He had no idea. He thought she was his prize, his future. He didn't know she'd once stood in this same sand with me, promising forever. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but no words came. I smiled, not out of kindness, but because I knew something she didn't. Something I had planned carefully over the last 2 years. And this beach? This wasn't just a coincidence. No, this was where everything was about to unravel. What she didn't realize yet was that I hadn't come alone. The ocean breeze carried her perfume to me before she even spoke. Same scent she'd worn on our wedding day. For 2 years, I thought the memory of it would fade, but standing there on the sand, it hit me like a punch to the chest. She finally managed to find her voice. Daniel. Her tone cracked, thin and shaky, like she was choking on the name she hadn't spoken in years. I raised my eyebrows, pretending calm. So, you do remember me. The man at her side looked me up and down. He was younger, late 30s maybe, dressed too neatly for a beach stroll. Who's this? He asked, almost annoyed. She didn't answer him right away. She was still staring at me, her eyes wide, like she was calculating how much I knew, how much I'd discovered. And the truth was, I knew everything. I stepped closer, slow, deliberate. I didn't expect to run into you here, Lorraine. Though, I suppose fate has a cruel sense of humor. The man finally put his arm around her waist, protective, maybe possessive. Is this some old friend of yours? I laughed, short, humorless. Friend? No. Husband. At least, I was, before she traded me in. Her new man stiffened. You're him? The ex-husband. I corrected, keeping my gaze locked on Lorraine. The man who built her a life. The man she tore apart without even a goodbye. She swallowed hard, her lips parting like she wanted to defend herself, but nothing came out. The silence between us was louder than the waves crashing behind her. I let it linger. I wanted her to sweat. Then I leaned just slightly closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. You didn't think I'd ever show up again, did you? You thought you could walk away, take what you wanted, bury the rest. But Lorraine, things have a way of resurfacing, just like driftwood. Her face tightened, panic flashing behind her eyes. She turned to the man beside her, forcing a shaky smile. Let's go, Chris. This isn't. But I cut her off. Chris, is it? I extended my hand. Nice to meet you. I'm the husband she forgot to mention. He didn't take my hand. Instead, he glared. Listen, man, I don't know what history you two have, but Lorraine moved on. So should you. I smiled again, but this time there was steel behind it. Oh, I have moved on. More than you realize. But tell me something. Chris, has she told you why she really left? Or did she give you the fairy tale version? Chris glanced at her, suspicion flickering. That was my opening. She didn't tell you, did she? I continued, my voice calm but cutting. About the hotel rooms. About the nights she claimed she was out of town for work. About the man before you, the one she swore was her future until she drained his wallet dry and walked away. Stop, Lorraine hissed, her voice breaking. Daniel, please. No, I said firmly, my tone low, controlled. You don't get to silence me anymore. You had 2 years of silence. My turn now. Chris pulled his hand back from hers, just slightly. Not much, but enough for me to notice. Enough for her to notice too. Her face paled. That was only the beginning. I straightened, brushing sand from my hand. You look surprised, Lorraine. You shouldn't be. I told you once, you'd see me again. And when you did, you wouldn't like what came with me. Her lips trembled. What are you saying? I leaned close enough that only she could hear me. I didn't come here alone. Her head whipped around, scanning the beach. Panic rose in her eyes as if she expected someone to step out from behind the dunes. Chris frowned. What's he talking about? She didn't answer. She couldn't. Because the truth was, the trap had already been set. And the first thread of her new life was already unraveling. Right here, in front of the man she thought would never learn the truth. Chris looked between us, his jaw tight. Lorraine, what's he talking about? Her hand shot out, clutching his arm, almost begging him to stay anchored. Nothing, Chris. He's just bitter. Angry. You don't have to listen to this. But her voice wavered, and that wobble was all Chris needed to catch. I folded my arms, watching her squirm. That's the thing about lies. They sound convincing until someone asks the wrong question. Then they start to crack. Daniel, she began, but I cut her off with a raised hand. Tell him, Lorraine. Tell him where you really were the night you claimed you were in Boston for that conference. Or do you want me to? Her face flushed, her lips parting in shock. Chris narrowed his eyes. Boston? You told me you hadn't traveled in years. I nodded slowly, savoring the moment. Oh, she traveled, all right. Not to Boston. Not to any conference. She was with him. The air between us tightened. Chris shifted, his voice lower now. Who? I let the question hang, my silence forcing her to answer. But she couldn't. She just stared at me, pleading silently, her eyes glistening with the desperation of someone caught. Finally, I leaned closer, my words sharp as broken glass. A man named Aaron. Younger than me. Younger than you too, Chris. She spent 3 weekends with him while I was back home, working, paying bills, raising our life together. And when it all came crashing down, she packed her bags and disappeared. 2 years of silence, Chris. 2 years of pretending I didn't exist. Chris pulled his arm away from her grip. Is that true? His voice cracked like he already knew the answer. Lorraine shook her head furiously. No, it's not like that. Daniel twists things. He always. Always what? I snapped, the control in my voice hardening. Always caught you. Always saw through the excuses? That's what you mean. Chris stared at her, the doubt growing heavier in his eyes. You told me he was controlling, that he drove you away. You never said anything about someone else. She stepped closer to him, frantic now. Because it wasn't serious. It was nothing, Chris. Just mistakes. I was lonely, Mistakes? I said, my voice cutting through hers. You call years of lies a mistake? You call destroying a marriage a mistake? You burned everything down, Lorraine, and then you walked into another man's arms as if none of it mattered. Her lips trembled, but she had no words. Chris took a slow step back, putting space between them. You told me he was obsessed, that he couldn't let go of you. That's what you said. I smirked, shaking my head. Obsessed? No. Careful, maybe. I kept records, Chris. Dates. Receipts. Messages. Do you want to see them? Because I brought them. Her eyes widened. Daniel, don't. Oh, I will. I whispered, leaning in close enough that she felt every word. I promised you, the silence wouldn't last forever. And now, every truth you buried is crawling back to the surface. Chris's face hardened as he looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time, I saw it, the cracks in her new life forming right there in front of me. But I wasn't finished. Not even close. Because what Chris didn't know yet was that Aaron wasn't the only name I had. And when I dropped the next one, her world would split wide open. Chris's expression was already shifting. Anger, confusion, betrayal all flashing across his face in quick succession. Lorraine reached for him again. But he stepped back, forcing her hand to drop uselessly at her side. Daniel, he said, his tone sharp. You mentioned Aaron. Who else? I let the silence stretch, watching Lorraine's breathing quicken, her chest rising and falling like a trapped bird. She shook her head at me desperately, her lips forming a whispered plea. Don't. But I wasn't there to protect her anymore. I took a slow breath, letting my words cut with surgical precision. Ethan. That name ring a bell, Lorraine? Her face went pale instantly. She covered her mouth, as if she could shove the truth back inside before it escaped. Chris snapped his head toward her. Ethan? Who the hell is Ethan? She stammered. It was years ago, before you, Chris. It didn't matter. It mattered to me. I interrupted. Because Ethan wasn't some stranger. He was your coworker. The man you swore was just a friend, the one you said you went to late-night meetings with. While I sat at home, waiting like a fool. Chris's fists clenched at his sides. Is that true? Lorraine tried to smile through the panic, but her voice betrayed her. Chris, listen to me. It wasn't serious. It ended long before. Ended. I barked a laugh. She told me the same thing, Chris, that it ended. But the hotel receipts told a different story. 4 nights in a row at the Shoreline Inn. Ring any bells, Lorraine? Her hands shook as she pressed them against her face. For the first time, she wasn't just fighting me. She was fighting the collapse of her new life, brick by brick. Chris stepped closer to her, but this time it wasn't tender. His voice was sharp, bitter. How many, Lorraine? How many men have there been? Because I'm starting to feel like I don't know you at all. Tears welled in her eyes. Please, Chris. Please don't listen to him. He's twisting everything. Am I said, my voice calm, steady. Or is he just hearing the same lies I heard for years? The difference is, I stopped believing them. Now it's his turn. She spun toward me, her voice cracking. Why are you doing this? Why here? I met her gaze without flinching. Because, Lorraine, truth doesn't hide forever. You built this new little life of yours on lies. And I came here to make sure they don't follow you quietly into the future. Chris looked at her like a man seeing a stranger. His jaw flexed, his eyes burning holes through her. I asked you once if there was anything I needed to know. You swore you'd been faithful to me. Was that a lie too? Lorraine sobbed, trying to reach for him again. Chris, I love you. I never meant for. But he stepped back. Don't touch me. And right there, on that beach, I watched her whole world start to collapse the way mine had 2 years before. But she didn't realize this was only the beginning. Because there was still one secret she had kept buried deeper than all the others. And when I revealed it, it wouldn't just shatter her relationship with Chris. It would shatter everything. Lorraine was trembling now, her tears streaking through the powder on her cheeks. The waves rolled in, steady and indifferent, as if the ocean itself had no care for her unraveling world. Chris stood stiffly, his fists clenched, his jaw tight, caught between fury and disbelief. I folded my arms and let the silence stretch, savoring the tension. You know, Chris, there's something I learned the hard way about Lorraine. She's good at half-truths. She'll admit just enough to keep you hooked, but never enough to let you see the whole picture. Daniel, stop, she begged, her voice raw. You've said enough. I shook my head slowly. No, Lorraine. I've only scratched the surface. Chris turned sharply toward her, his voice low and dangerous. Is he lying? About Ethan? About Aaron? Her lips quivered. It wasn't like that. Answer me. His voice cracked like a whip. She broke down, nodding through her sobs. Yes, okay. Yes, I made mistakes. But it's over. It's in the past. Past. I cut in. That's the trick, Chris. She always says it's in the past, but somehow the past never stays there. It shows up again, years later, dressed in lies. Chris glared at her like he was seeing a stranger standing beside him. His voice was thick with bitterness. What else, Lorraine? What else haven't you told me? Her eyes flicked to me in panic, pleading. She knew what was coming. I took a step closer, lowering my voice, letting every word sink in like a knife. Chris, she didn't just lie to you. She lied to me about something that went far deeper than hotel rooms and secret lovers. Lorraine shook her head violently, her voice breaking. No, Daniel, please, not that. Don't. I tilted my head, studying her. Afraid the truth might finally catch up with you? Chris looked between us, his face tightening. What truth? She clutched at his arm again, desperate. Chris, don't listen to him. He just wants to destroy me. I smiled faintly. No, Lorraine. I don't need to destroy you. You did that yourself. I'm just here to hold up the mirror. Chris's voice dropped lower. Tell me what he means. Right now. Lorraine collapsed into sobs, shaking her head. Please, Chris. Please. You don't want to know. But he didn't let up. I asked you a question. Her silence was answer enough. I let the moment breathe, the tension coiling tighter than a drawn bowstring. Then I whispered, just loud enough for them both to hear. It's not just about affairs, Chris. It's about family, about blood, and about a secret that cuts deeper than anything you've heard so far. Chris's face drained of color. He looked at her like the ground had shifted beneath his feet. Family? What the hell is he talking about? Lorraine covered her face with her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. And I knew. This was the moment. The secret she thought she had buried forever was about to surface. But I wasn't going to hand it to them all at once. No, I was going to make her feel every second of fear before the truth came out. Chris's breathing grew heavier, his voice edged with fury. What do you mean, family? What's he talking about, Lorraine? She kept her face buried in her hands, sobbing, shaking her head as though that would erase the truth pressing in on her from both sides. I stepped forward, close enough that she could feel my presence like a shadow stretching over her. My voice was calm, deliberate. Tell him, Lorraine. For once in your life, just tell the truth. Or do you want me to? Her hands slipped from her face, revealing eyes swollen red from tears. Daniel, please not here. Not like this. I tilted my head. Here is perfect. Here, in front of the man you swore you loved, in front of the ocean that's seen more honesty in its tides than you've ever shown in your entire marriage. This is exactly where the truth belongs. Chris took another step toward her, his face flushed with anger. What truth, Lorraine? You better start talking, because I'm running out of patience. She tried to reach for him again, but he recoiled. Don't touch me, he snapped. Her voice broke, every word dripping with desperation. Chris, I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought it wouldn't matter if we just kept living. I laughed bitterly. That's her specialty, Chris, pretending lies will stay buried. But they never do. Chris turned to me, his voice hard. Say it. If she won't, then you say it. I let the silence linger, long enough for Lorraine to crumble a little more, long enough for her heart to pound against her ribs like a war drum. Then I delivered it, clear and sharp. She has a son. My son. At least, I thought he was mine. Chris blinked, his jaw tightening. What? I took a breath, steady. For 15 years, I raised him, loved him, taught him how to ride a bike, how to throw a ball. He was my boy, my pride, my legacy. And then, 2 years ago, right before she disappeared, I learned the truth. He wasn't mine. He never was. Chris's eyes widened. Slowly, he turned to Lorraine. Is that true? Her sobs turned into broken gasps. Chris, please. Is it true? His voice thundered above the waves. She nodded, collapsing into herself. Yes, she whispered. Yes, it's true. The look on Chris's face said everything. A mixture of shock, betrayal, and rage boiled into one expression so sharp it could cut steel. I pressed on, my words calm but merciless. She lied for 15 years, Chris. Let me raise another man's child while she smiled in my face every day. And when the truth came out, she vanished. She left me with the wreckage and went chasing another new beginning. Probably thought she'd never have to face me again. Chris shook his head slowly, his chest rising and falling as if he were struggling to breathe. You mean to tell me, you let another man raise your kid? You lied about something that big? Lorraine collapsed into the sand, her body trembling. I didn't know how to stop it. I thought I could protect everyone. I thought. Protect. I spat. You destroyed everything. You stole a child's identity, a father's bond, a family's truth. And now? Now it's Chris's turn to live in your web of lies. Chris stepped back, his face twisted with fury. My God, who are you, Lorraine? She sobbed into her hands, broken beyond repair. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt the balance shift. The truth wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to everyone standing on that beach. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. Because there was still one final piece, one detail Lorraine had never imagined I'd uncover. And when I revealed that, it would end her lies forever. The waves pounded harder against the shore, as if the ocean itself wanted to drown out the silence between us. Chris stood rigid, his fists clenched, his chest heaving. Lorraine was on her knees in the sand, her sobs muffled by the sound of gulls circling overhead. I didn't move. I wanted her to sit in it, to feel every ounce of fear, every fragment of shame she had forced onto me years ago. Chris's voice finally broke the silence. So what else is there? His eyes drilled into me. You said there's more. Lorraine lifted her head, her hair clinging wetly to her cheeks. Chris, please, she whispered. Don't let him poison us. He's doing this to destroy me. I chuckled, low and humorless. No, Lorraine. You already destroyed yourself. I'm just unwrapping the package you tied with your own lies. Chris glared at her. If there's more, I want to hear it. Now. Her body trembled. Chris, I swear, you've heard the worst of it. But I shook my head slowly, savoring the moment. No, he hasn't. Lorraine spun toward me, her eyes wide with desperation. Daniel, stop. If you ever loved me. Loved you. I cut her off sharply, my voice echoing over the waves. That love died the day I found out I'd been raising another man's son. That was your choice, Lorraine, not mine. Her lips trembled. Then why are you here? I leaned in, my words sharp enough to make her flinch. Because, Lorraine, I promised myself you wouldn't get to rewrite the story. You wouldn't get to ride off into some perfect little life while the truth stayed buried. Not after everything you stole. Chris's face hardened. Tell me what it is. The final piece. Say it. Lorraine let out a strangled sob, shaking her head violently. No, no, Daniel, please, don't do this. But I only stared at her. Calm, steady, determined. I turned to Chris. The truth is, you're not just another chapter in her story. You're part of the pattern, just like I was, just like the men before me. Chris's jaw tightened. What pattern? I leaned closer, dropping my voice until it cut like a whispering blade. She's been repeating the same lie for decades. It wasn't just my son who wasn't mine. There's more. More children. More secrets. More men who never knew the truth. Chris's face went pale, his voice a ragged whisper. You mean? Lorraine collapsed again, clutching the sand in her fists, sobbing like a child. Don't, Daniel. Please. Don't tell him. Don't. But it was too late. The tide was rising, and so was the truth. I straightened my shoulders, staring down at her trembling form. The final piece, Lorraine. It's time. The beach had gone quiet. Even the seagulls seemed to hold their cries as if waiting for the final word. Chris's eyes burned into me, his voice sharp and shaking. Say it. Whatever it is, say it. Lorraine was on her knees, clutching her face, sobbing into the sand. Daniel, please don't. I beg you. I stared at her for a long moment. 2 years of silence, of unanswered questions, of nights spent wondering why I wasn't enough. It all led here. This moment. And I wasn't going to waste it. I took a step closer, my shadow falling over her. Chris, the boy she let me raise wasn't mine. But here's the part she never told either of us. I paused, letting the words come out slow and sharp. He wasn't yours, Lorraine. He wasn't even Aaron's. He belonged to Ethan. Her head snapped up, eyes wide with terror. She shook her head violently, but I kept going. I had the DNA tests. I know the truth. For 15 years, you let me believe I was his father. And when the lies started to close in, you left. You thought you could bury it. But you couldn't, Lorraine. Not then, and not now. Chris staggered back, his face drained of color. Ethan, he muttered. He turned to her, his voice breaking. You told me he was just a coworker? Just a friend. Lorraine collapsed into sobs, clutching at his legs. Chris, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought if I just kept moving forward. Moving forward? His voice roared like thunder. He yanked his leg free. You built your entire life on lies. With him. With me. With everyone. I let the silence hang for a beat, the waves crashing behind us like punctuation. Then I spoke one last time, calm and steady. A man's word is his bond, Lorraine. You broke that bond every chance you got. And now? You've got nothing left but the ruins. She crumpled into the sand, sobbing uncontrollably, her shoulders shaking as Chris turned his back on her. He walked a few steps away, hands on his head, his whole world cracking open. I took a slow breath, the salt air filling my chest. For the first time in 2 years, I felt lighter. Not happy. Betrayal doesn't leave room for happiness. But free. Free of the silence. Free of her. I turned and began walking down the beach, the tide washing over my footprints as quickly as I made them. Behind me, Lorraine's sobs echoed across the sand, a reminder that the truth always finds its way to the surface. I didn't look back. I didn't need to, because some stories don't deserve second chapters, and hers had just ended.